Little is known of the early years of Preacher, who was born around 1953 and raised in the Harlem neighborhood of New York City. Said to have dropped out of school by the 4th grade, Preacher learned to handle himself on the rough streets of his neighborhood. He became increasingly involved in criminal activity, leading to a string of convictions in the 1970s for possession of firearms and robberies. Preacher, also known as the Black Hand of Death, who extorted, kidnapped, and even killed to gain notoriety on the streets of the Bronx and the Harlem area of New York City. Preacher's top lieutenant was a former housing cop named John Cuff. His team included janitors, whose job was to clean up the mess after the Preacher crew's victims were tortured and murdered. According to authorities, the drug ring operated from apartment buildings in the Bronx. It was rumored and reported by several media outlets that the Preacher crew once kidnapped singer Bobby Brown, ex-husband of famed pop singer Whitney Houston, and held him for ransom over a drug debt. There was a moment in time when Whitney Houston would do anything for her love, Bobby Brown, even if that meant paying a $400,000 ransom to save the R&B bad boy's life. A former gangster in Harlem, New York, said there was no real beef with Bobby Brown when his gang, the Preacher crew, run by Clarence Heatley, aka Preacher, kidnapped him in the 90s. It was April 1993. Whitney's movie The Bodyguard and the movie's album were big hits. Preacher, the gang's leader, and his crew decided to take a trip to Atlantic City, New Jersey to indulge in some bottle popping. Spur-of-the-moment trips to go party were a way of life for the Preacher crew, who were big spenders known for making a great deal of money selling cocaine, crack, heroin, PCP, and other drugs in Harlem and the Bronx. The night was full of revelry. However, things took a turn when they met up with a dealer named Luke from New Jersey, who claimed he and his crew had a beef with Bobby Brown. Allegedly, the Don't Be Cruel singer owed them $25,000 for a kilo of cocaine he copped from them on consignment. "When we see this motherfucker Bobby Brown, we gonna kill him," Collins says Luke told Preacher. "He borrowed a Ki of coke from us about 3 months ago, and he's ducking us." Brown was a titan of a star in 1993. His sophomore solo album sold over 7 million copies, and he had 5 songs from the project that landed in the top 10 slots of Billboard Hot 100 hits. He had also just married Whitney Houston in 1992. The couple shared a lavish mansion in Mendham, New Jersey, and because Mendham was right over the George Washington Bridge, Bobby often made trips to NYC to frequent the New Yorker, the same club where Sean Puffy Combs, Jennifer Lopez, and bad boy rapper Shine would be involved in an infamous shootout years later. Preacher came up with a plan to make himself a lot more than $25,000. "I tell you what, let me buy that beef from you. I'm going to give you $10,000 right now, and it is no longer your problem. It is my problem. You ain't got nothing to do with that," Preacher said. The Preacher crew, who terrorized the Bronx and Harlem, were responsible for 47 murders by the early 1990s. The notorious gang was known for its torture tactics. They would chop off body parts and even kill to get what they wanted. After paying Luke and his crew $10,000 to resolve the issue, Preacher devised a plan, and in a calculated move, the crew enlisted a sexy Harlem vixen to entice Bobby Brown at the New Yorker nightclub. Dressed to impress, she sat nearby, aiming to engage him in conversation. The first night, Bobby did not speak to the sexy decoy. However, the next night, she successfully lured the R&B star outside, leading Brown directly to the Preacher crew's van, which was waiting to snatch him and make a swift yet discreet abduction. After kidnapping Brown, the Preacher crew transported him to a Bronx apartment illegally occupied by Preacher inside one of the borough's many abandoned buildings. Inside, a man named Malik took charge, stripping Brown naked, hog-tying him. Throughout this ordeal, Brown remained restrained and exposed. Preacher then showed up and took the rag out of Bobby's mouth. "It's a shame we have to kill you." Preacher left the room, and his men then terrorized Bobby for 2 hours. They kicked him. They told him they would kill Whitney. One of them put a gun to his head. Bobby was weeping when Preacher came back in the room, begging Preacher to let him call Whitney. Eventually, Preacher allowed Brown one phone call to his celebrity wife. Once on the phone, Preacher and his guys leveraged her husband's pitiful plight to negotiate a $400,000 payout. Upon learning the terms to secure his freedom, Whitney Houston was told by the gangsters not to involve authorities. Houston, disguised in oversized glasses and a wig, arrived solo in a cab at a Bronx location with a bag containing the money to secure her husband's release. Unshaken by the dingy apartment and the dangerous and armed hustlers in the room, she entered the apartment, boldly tossed the money onto the floor, and demanded that someone tell her Brown's whereabouts. The men told her that he was in the other room, and after learning where he was, she wasted no time to get to him, untied him, and demanded that the people who kidnapped her man get his clothing. After witnessing her assertiveness, Preacher's crew had newfound respect for Houston's strength, loyalty, and dedication to her loved one.
Heatley, I didn't know of the crew back then. I only found out about them around 10 years ago. It was funny because I know nothing like that ever happened to me. I've never been kidnapped. I've never had a debt with any drug dealers. I kind of took it really personal that my name would be mentioned in such a dark light. I didn't want my name to be associated with anyone of that caliber. The incident never happened. I don't know how they connected my name or even my ex-wife's name to that crew.
By the early 1990s, the New York Police Department and FBI formed a task force to take down the Preacher crew, who by this time had reportedly been involved in nearly 45 homicides. Not long after, both Preacher and Cuff entered into plea deals in order to avoid the death penalty. Under the terms of his plea bargain, made in February 1999, a 47-year-old Preacher pleaded guilty to racketeering and murder conspiracy in connection with 13 drug-related homicides. He was sentenced to life in prison. According to the New York Times, in explanation of Preacher's plea bargain, one of his attorneys named Joel S. Cohen said, "There didn't seem to be any upside to going to trial if we could be certain that he would avoid execution by pleading guilty." Cohen added that Preacher wanted to spare his family from having to experience his execution, and he also wanted to try to be a positive presence in the lives of his children. According to authorities, Preacher acknowledged during his plea bargaining that he had made a substantial income from his drug dealing from 1990 to 1996. Preacher is currently serving his sentence at the Federal Correctional Institution, Talladega, in Alabama.